So there's the idea of getting clear, getting OT, getting, there's this bridge to total freedom, right? With all these steps, all these things you got to do, and all this money you got to pay to do it. People are happy to pay it if they feel like they're getting somewhere and if they feel like they're getting some results. And while you move up the bridge, the results become fewer and more far between, but you can still convince yourself that you're getting something out of all of this, right? Yeah, we're going to go over this question, Dina, you just asked about whether my ideas about clearing the planet changed over the years. Remind me of that later if I don't address that in what I'm talking about here. I'm just talking off the top of my head, by the way, folks. I've got some quotes and things lined up, but I haven't really put a outline or a script together or something. All right, so there is the broader idea in Scientology that you're introduced to. I don't think too many people get involved in Scientology because they only want to achieve this. I think this is something that they get indoctrinated into as they progress, and they start buying into this idea of clearing the planet, right? They go from the idea of, I'm going to get clear, I'm going to get to OT, I'm going to become a super being or a god or this amazing person. But then they start, as any real, honest, good person would, they want this for other people too. And so there's this concept of clearing the planet as a mission or a goal of Scientology. So first off, let's look at a couple things here that I pulled up. The first one I thought I'd start with is the aims of Scientology. And I don't know how many of you guys are totally familiar with this. I'm going to go over this as though some of you maybe have never seen or heard of this before. This is written by Hubbard, this particular thing called the aims of Scientology. This was from September 1965, according to Scientology.org, which is where I'm going to read this from. And here are the stated goals of Scientology. A civilization without insanity, without criminals, and without war, where the able can prosper and honest beings can have rights, and where man is free to rise to greater heights, are the aims of Scientology. So, no insanity, no criminality, no war. Sounds pretty good. I've talked about this before. This is some pretty good stuff. This is very laudable. Now, there's some terms that are used after this that get a little ambiguous. A little bit like, what? Where the able can prosper. Well, who are the able? And what does that mean? What about the disabled? Like you don't apply, when you read this as a Scientologist, you go, yeah, that makes sense. The able, that is obviously a euphemism for us, the Scientologists, because we're the able, right? Scientology is all about making the able more able. So clearly, right, it's all about making, Scientologists can prosper, right? And honest beings can have rights. Oh, hey, thanks, Sean. I'm always forgetting about the super chat here. Somebody just donated $10 to me. I really appreciate that. Okay, so let's move on here. So honest beings can have rights, which of course means that dishonest beings, or people who are not honest in whatever estimation of Scientology is honest, right? And we know where Scientology's honesty level is. But where honest beings can have rights, meaning, of course, that if you're not measuring up to that, you have no rights. And, again, within the world of Scientology, these counterpoints I'm making are not ever thought of, right? It's all about, well, we're able, so we're going to prosper. We're honest, so we're going to have all the rights. And where man is free to rise to greater heights. Okay, what is that even supposed to mean, right? Where man is free to rise to greater heights. That is so subjective as an understanding. And I found in talking to other ex-Scientologists when I was doing a little bit of research for this podcast, that very different ideas come to people's minds when they thought of this, right? Or had this when they were in Scientology. Okay, so I want. Oh, hey, thanks. Another little donation there. So I wanted to first go over this because this is if you go into a Church of Scientology, or if you were to ask a Scientologist, okay, what are you guys about here? And what are you doing? Most Scientologists would eventually end up pointing to this. It's a fairly well-known idea within the world of Scientology, right? That these aims exist, right? And when you envision, as a Scientologist, when I envisioned clearing the planet, this was what I had in mind. Was a whole planet, I mean, all us billions of people getting along. And it was just like, what? But yeah, that was actually kind of how I thought about it, right? Is no more insane asylums, no more people going crazy, having psychotic fits or breaks, or no serial killers, no nuts, no nothing like that. And I'm just throwing out all these, I'm sure highly offensive words for insane people, but basically, we're talking about people who, Scientology is supposed to bring sanity. Scientology claims that it has the solutions for solving, people's mental issues or problems. I mean, Dianetics, modern science of mental health. So a world without insanity seems like a fairly obvious, gimme if you have the handle on how to solve insanity, which Scientology claims it does, and yet refuses to treat people who are insane. How's that supposed to work, right? If you go into a Church of Scientology and you say, I have a mental illness, I have a mental condition, and I have been institutionalized, and I have been, released, or I need to go back, or I'm concerned, or I have problems, I am on medications. I mean, if you go in there saying these things, they're probably going to end up showing you the door. If you go in talking in some kind of a non sequitur fashion, if you go in there with some kind of obvious issues, out you go. Okay, bye. Yeah, nice to see you. Even if you have money, the policies of Scientology are, no, we don't treat the insane. And yet they're saying that they want a civilization without insanity. Okay, pretty obvious contradiction, right? Okay,